Om Mani Padme Hum. I'm going to begin with that sound. And I'm not going to say a single word or give you a single clue, maybe some deep implications at times of what that means. You need to figure it out yourself. So that's something I'm just putting out there. Whoever wants to go do the research, and you'll see if your search really needs you to go look at that. To continue through the silence is always very important. To be at the end and at your breaking point, and to continue being further, transcending, existing in a grander and more observant way, then you realize a certain ability in regards to how you perceive and observe ideas. You see, we need to use metaphors because they are ladders for humanity. Metaphors were the greatest gift. Metaphors connected worlds. I think they were the first wormholes, actually. Metaphors. However, we must begin utilizing our language observantly to then be more capable users of it. You need to be more aware of the brush to be a better painter. And you become aware by practicing using it more. So, similarly to how you would use a brush to practice insight, cultivating insight. Something they did, and I believe they still do. And the idea came to me first from a Tibetan source. In other words, you sit down and you wonder at existence. Because once you do that, some things happen that humanity can no longer continue to define. In other words, the human form turns into more than the greatest potential of our imagination. Regardless of the route given, the ending and the beginning were the same cycle, were the union and the coexistence and the duality at the same time. In a world fixed on certainty through solid, objective views, poets feel that there is a certain blindness among men, that some cannot hear the music in which the poetry is written to, and the music is life. In other words, life is so harmonious when you tune into this energy, to this nothingness, and at the same time everythingness existence. You re-experience yourself in the best way I can put it, in your own subjective flexibility, how subjectively you are coordinated. In other words, if I tell you love, the view of love you have suggests if it's objective or subjective. If I say love and you're looking at animal lust, for example, that is not love. That is survival. That is just chemical imbalance, just it's not acknowledging a grander presence. Therefore, someone else, when I say love, they might not even see it as even sexual. They say, oh no, there's no sexual love, for example. They say there's existential love. There's the love of being alive, Some people, but at the same time, it doesn't matter what view there is, because it's not about the thing you do. It's about the eyes that are looking. You see, it's not about being street smart or trying to get in a better seat into observing yourself. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter It doesn't matter if you're sitting on a bench, you can cultivate insight and clear visions of your own world any moment. Any moment, even hearing me say it now. Once you realize you can do it in any moment, you're no longer seeking in regards to direct answer. In other words, you're not seeking for like, all right, let me see the result of this. Let me see if this is true. Let me see if this is true. You're not no longer chasing truths, but you're playful and you're actually trying to learn how this objectivity is being guided and how nature's designs are still hard for man to copy. Do you know what I mean? When you look at that, you see a beauty here. Guys, there's a beauty to life, and it's not in fucking soap operas. But at the same time, it's what soap operas are based, because soap operas are based on life. You know, a very clean and organized and shaped, life. You see, there are different levels of attention given to different things. A lot of people understand that survival has become no longer, of the fittest, but of the one who's financially fit. We are in a society where, as children, we're conditioned to want certain desires. In other words, want to, get this kind of richness and that kind of richness and that kind of success. Certain conditioned successes, right? Based on how we looked at life when we were young. But then, kind of like in the growing process, recognized that what was growing was much deeper than any idea given attention to before. We have this innate ability to know without a definition. If you think about it, people are saying definitions. You are saying, that's not true because of this definition. It's as if you're saying, this sound is not true, this sound is true. You're literally, if you have the words, for example, this religion is true or this science is true, it doesn't matter who's defining, where's the definition coming from. You see, there's one part, guys, which is elusive, and then there's another part which is your heartbeat, okay? There's one part where you think you're gonna die, and there's one part where there's death. And this is not only at old age, but the fact that there's mental death, in other words, the ideas of you changing. If suddenly you no longer had to have that impulsive behavior in yourself. You see, find that core. And when you try to find it, you were always there. You see, before you tried to see a broken world, it was already fixed. Why is your attention on how broken it is? It's very important where your attention is in this life, because what you look at, it kind of builds and amplifies in your life, and it pulls. For example, if you only looked at, for example, or heard the same song, you know what I mean? Eventually, you'd go to the artist's concert, for example. It's that kind of view. I find that there is certain sensitivities a human being can tune in himself to and align. And what I mean by that is balance. When you as a person can balance yourself, and when I say balance, it's not a balance me or anyone else can tell you. It's a balance you find within yourself of how to view your life. You see, we have intuition. We are not distracted by our signs. We have innate knowing. We know how to move. We know how to live. And knowing how to live means you really pay attention to how the knowing is there. The knowing is almighty. It's present. It is simply what religious people have become slightly ignorant to because they're too distracted by the story. Religion is beautiful history of how life progressed. And at the same time, it is also a very great mirror. It's as if they were very deep ideas to elevate mankind's awareness of his existence. If you are a person who's alive and says, I hate this idea, I hate that idea, I hate this, if you have any hate in your life, literally, if you do, I don't care to who it is, it may be anything, maybe the worst person in the world, but if someone asks you at the end of your life, do you know what I mean? How was your life? You should not say it was shit. Do you know what I mean? It's as if like you like no, actually all these things which I didn't value were amazing. It's like your sensitivity to how amplified your life is becomes immensely catalyzed. I don't know how to explain this. It's as if you eat a bit of food and it's just your experiences conquer. It's as if every change is a huge burst of ecstatic experience of a selflessness, which is the presence. It's the moment, and it's the unspeakable thing. In other words, I can draw any images. I could just try to find Picasso's hands and try to draw this heavenly view, but it still won't be shaped correctly. And you would see a face that has no face, no expression. The expression of your life cannot be judged, and that's why it's a valuable personal exploratory experience. You got to go after it yourself. This is not common. The ideas I speak about, they're not very common. They're not even passed around anywhere. However, it doesn't mean we cannot be attentive to other views, because I have understood that great things happen when minds come together, regardless of whose mind. If all our minds came together to think about our problems and solutions, that connectivity would be amazing. But how can that happen when we all have separate minds? Well, we have separate minds, that's true, but we have one earth. Our feet are standing on this earth. So if everyone understood that the earth and this presence and this existence is the great mind of how everything has come to be, because we are made of the four elements of life, 4 or 5, however elements the ancient texts would say. But we are here. There's a greater mind. You see, just as there are greater bodies, there are greater minds. You are not lost in a bad idea. You're not lost in a bad idea. Never think about it. You are not, I want to say all-knowing, but it's not relevant to a sense of you. It's not image-based. You are knowing that you are in all. It's as if back in the day there were these sacred practices and meditations that people would do, and eventually after some point of doing these meditations and discovering how this is in other words, I want to just open for you this view. Literally open the curtains to show you how the light is shining in this story. That in the silence, you always have clarity. I was about to tell you a story, but I noticed that there was a slight desire for me to really explain a certain picture to you, and I noticed that it's unnecessary for me to actually explain that story. However, I think that some great ideas to share would be to understand the flow of creativity in life and how this existence is already flowing. It's as if life knows itself, and all these stars orbiting around the sun know where they are, because the sun is there, So there is a certain poetry to existence that once it is seen in regards to vastness outside of your own image and presence, then there is simply the opening of the heavens in your eyes. In other words, what is the most beautiful scene? And I can tell you, and let me tell you, if they bring that beautiful scene, the most beautiful scene would be what you would see after that, when that's gone. Just as I am walking, I want you to visualize that I am walking in a forest in India. It is during the ancient times. And let's say, for example, I'm a Vedic seer. Let's say me and you and everyone else who's hearing this, we're Vedic seers and we're all just walking, in a forest in India. We would understand after spending selfless samdhi, as how they would say it then, I guess, of experience of life. Literally that kind of just intensity of experience where there's a nothingness and an awareness and a sensitivity gain. It's as if you realize the spirit within you is within everything. It's like when you have that moment, in that selflessness, you notice something. You notice that through all ranges of sensitivity, your eyes break through any form to be exactly where they are, but within knowing that they are not just this form. There is a collective sense where once you separate something, it seeks its other half. We have attractions. We are made by different ranges of attractions. We are simply in the vein of the cosmos, or maybe even, an infinite amount of veins in a vein and that size in the cosmos. You know what I mean? Of the cosmos. But our curiosity must be authentic, and it must not be called curiosity. It must be called seeking life, going within, looking or cultivating insight, perhaps how they called it. And like a Vedic seer, after attaining cultivating insight and just looking at this reality, there would be a saying by these Vedic seers that they would say, it's not that you don't see, it's not that you just see God, it's that you see God through everything. You're a being that is having an experience of something right now. And because you have free will to experience this something, you also have the free will to experience nothing. But you look, everything is flowing beyond considerations of a static self. You must consider a dynamic self, and you are no longer just one idea. You are all that is. You see, you can choose to experience life to the degree that all your notions of God fade away and you're just experiencing a moment of ecstatic existential bliss and ecstasy. If you reach that point, you realize the physical stuff doesn't matter because they're literally taking too much attention. It's as if you're not in this life to just play with cars or, with suits and with wallets and with mortgages. You know what I mean? You're not here to play with these. You're actually here it is okay to invest in those kind of like ideas from the past, but you got to look at the efficiency you want to bring. For example, let's say if someone is very talented at some skill, in the time that you waste, imagine you could be teaching it to someone. you know because human beings are separated, they're not like collectively compassionate to share information and understanding. They are limited. It's as if we are neurons in the brain just starting to learn that we're much better off if we connect and communicate and have compassion and love. Not a fluffy type of love that's just animalistic sex painted with bright colors, but it's an existential presence of love. It's a presence as if we are here. We're not in video games and stories of our own creation. Our creativity is created by us, but it is not our enslavement. It is not our illusion. Existence is not good or bad, but if you choose good, always know it can be bad. And if you choose bad, always know it can be good. Because that's the nature of duality. You need to confront duality in this life. And these are things where it's very hard to approach as a speaker, as me speaking these ideas, but I want to push them. I want to bring these ideas here. I want to bring ideas of self-reflection. It is because once you do that, you become a more capable person. And when there are much more capable people around me, I know that the nature of man, by looking in a child, you look at a child and you understand, no, kids are not corrupt. It's the system. It's the environment. In other words, kids being born on planet Earth is not healthy. Do you know what I mean? For example. So some, I guess, alien mothers, or this is actually pretty, extraterrestrial attention doesn't need to, come here because humanity is not functionable. Listen, humanity's understanding of energy will change very quickly. I hope my voice is, definitely catalyzing some things, but regardless of that, there is this greater sensitivity which we will have. We are looking at children. As long as children are being born, we are never lost because we can see that open state of mind. Because if you are lost in an image of yourself, and you're always worried of that image, you're paying too much attention to that kind of life rather than being your greatest talent, being your greatest skill, being your greatest, heavenly gaze, I like to call, seeking that highest peak of existential experience. Go for it. Now's the time. And it doesn't mean stop your education or something. No, it just means pay attention to your experience. So every morning, every day you wake up, you have full awareness. You see what's going on. You're capable. If you are so attentive and aware and mindful, in other words, you don't shut the door or slam it. You go slow. You experience slow speeds, and how when you're slow, it affects mental psychology, and it's better. Being fast blended with this. With the slow brings this duality where once it's collectively acknowledged, it's beautiful. Guys, beauty is when we see the collective view. And when separation becomes its own mask and mask wear, it's very hard to get out of such character, It's hard to think that there are people out there who, for example, they have incidents where they can't remember who they are, so they're literally a new person. We see that there's choice. You are, a healthy person, you're attentive, so you need to be actually very grateful about what you have, literally your senses. You know what I mean? Everybody who goes to a concert, definitely be grateful, for rocking out like that or hearing that much music, but just be aware of that sense. You see, we need to be aware of our bodies. We need to make sure our physical bodies are healthy, guys. So in other words, I hope this is inspiring you to, buy a gym bag, and go join a gym or just be active. Move your body. The body needs to move. It is healthy for you, and once you do it, your mind elevates. Your mind clears. So if your body, and also sleep. Sleep well. And don't sleep based on, if you have school, yeah, but really, when you sleep, don't have any ideas and just be like, I'm gonna sleep, and just go in your sleep very comfortably and very comfortably come out. Because if you're tense and you go in your sleep's gonna, kind of imply the tenseness in your body. The most important truth is that truth was just a definition. It was subjective and objective, and it pointed to a multidimensional infinity that was always its own finite, entrance. Depth is important at this time. We need to be deep talkers. We need to listen. Because if we don't have the urge to search for who we are and what our highest sense of experience is, then life becomes inefficient. You don't need to be like that. You could be much more efficient. You see, it doesn't matter if you become another name, or you go towards fame. I mean, fame is good, in regards to the wealth it brings and the activities you do, but you need to go a bit more tuned. In other words, always hear your intuition. Always listen, because sometimes you're here to do things you cannot even consider yourself doing. In other words, you see a person comes, and in their lifetime they have many choices in regards to paths to direct themselves in how they want to live. You have many ways of spending your time on earth in this lifetime, but you don't want to be stuck in your own, mental box. Open your eyes and understand that you deserve this vaster gaze of what your next view is going to be. The beauty in life is right here, and you are it, alongside any other conception you have. This is the origin, and understand that it's not a voice, it's not an idea, and it's not anything that you can connect to that degree. Thank you.